All right, we're live. What's up, everybody? I haven't gone live in an insanely long time, actually, just because there's been so much that I've been like working on and doing like marketing for different platforms that I own. So I haven't really also like I moved recently, so I haven't really had the chance to just go live and like talk for a while. But I figured, why not? I was actually had like a free moment, and there's actually so much that I want to like discuss. And I kind of don't really have, I kind of titled just like the fact that I'm live because I really don't have anything like set that I want to talk about. Like normally when I do a live stream, I have something I want to talk about, and then I go into it like with that in mind. And with this one, I really didn't because one, there's so much going on in general that there's just like so much I can discuss. But really, like I kind of want like to hear some like opinions. Like I kind of want to hear like other people like say stuff in live chat, that can kind of like talk about. But really, with starters, is first of all, I start a new job Monday, which I'm pretty excited about. Basically, I'm finishing up with college. I got a few like online summer classes, then I'm all done. And really, like I figured, obviously I want to do media full time. And the stuff like store for business and also, the ad space and everything I sell my content, which I'm getting into later, is it's kind of like what I want to do forever, and it's definitely like the business that I want to have. The only issue is, if you can even call it an issue, is that really like I need to cover all of my expenses because like I want to get like my own place, like a basically like as everyone in the world, I need money, and even though the stuff I'm doing is making money, and actually like like I'm slowly making like more and more over time, I need to get to the point where really like all of my expenses can be covered by ad revenue, which actually like my current plan, which obviously, I'm really big in like planning everything out to an annoying extent. But like my current plan is I really want to get to the like point where just like podcast, like ad revenue from podcasts is covering all of my expenses. And what I mean by that is that, really like every time someone listens to a podcast episode that I produce, I make like a penny a person, right? And if you can get 10,000 people a day to listen to like a podcast. It's like it basically goes out to like $100 a day, $500 a week, which I believe is around $30,000 a year. So really, right now podcasting revenue is like a very, very small part of the overall revenue that CWT Media makes, which is my business thing media company. Because most of the revenue from that is coming from like actually like selling sponsorships myself and the store for business.weebly.com. Like both of those together are kind of what's making it's really making my income. But like with that in mind, like with all that in mind, I really want to get to the point where like still the podcast like actual like ad revenue is like a very like small part of what I'm doing, but it basically covers all my expenses. Like I have like the audience, I have the followers that I really like listen to like the podcast episodes that I do, and I'm able to make enough income to handle everything that way, and that would give me like so much more time to really focus on making like storeforbusiness.weebly.com the greatest business store of all time, which is the goal. And like finding like more sponsors and everything and basically growing this company. Because obviously like my long-term goal is to get all this money or like get like all the money like that I'm making like throughout this media and start investing it into startups and start building these startups into like huge companies. And as you can see, like I'm doing a lot of that work already, like with CWT Business Development, which is my other company. I have two. Like with that company, like I started a clothing brand, right? And I really like started the clothing brand through that company. And I've been using CWT Business Development like in its platforms and also CWT Media too to advertise it and like grow like my own clothing brand into like an actual business. And by doing that and by seeing that marketing strategy, it makes sense that I'm be able to take like other small businesses, like ones that I don't directly own, and use the marketing that I'm using for, Divine Era, which is my clothing brand, and turn it into like, or turn these small businesses into like really profitable companies. And I think that'll definitely happen. And I think that is happening already. And that's the really interesting thing. Like when you have, like not only like with Divine Era, like I've done, obviously I have affiliate deals with tons of different startups. And they're all like partnered up with CWT Business Development. And you can see the marketing work that I'm doing there, like through my business development company. And the fact that like already, with CWT Media being like a very, I mean, it's still like it's still a profitable company, but it's not like a huge business or anything like that yet. But with the media platforms that I already have, CWT Media and CWT Business Development are already working together to make these small businesses profitable. And as CWT Media gets bigger, as I get more of an audience, as I get more money coming in, it just makes sense that CWT Business Development would kind of like follow along in the footsteps and meet it there. And while these two businesses are working together, I really think, and I do believe this, I really think we're going to see like both of these take off. I think COG Business Development is going to continue to get new clients, continue to get start its own businesses, continue to get equity in other companies, and use the media that I'm building and the audience that I'm able to generate, especially through the podcast right now. Or really, my blog is by far my biggest, but like with the podcast, it just makes sense that they're going to like grow together and it's going to be able to like make like pretty good money by having like equity in all these startups, which is by far the goal, and using all like CWT Business Development and CWT Media to grow these startups. It's really going to be interesting to see how that transpires for one, but like how that really goes, like if it's able to happen. And the ad revenue alone that I'll be making like through the podcasting, like covering my expenses, I can use that. I can use the money from the store for business to also like do a lot of different marketing work. And basically like I'm developing one, a brand that I can market through, and two, a company that I can kind of like funnel these like startups through, to reach like a huge market. And that's something that I'm doing like right now, is in a like in a much different way. But it's like I'm selling sponsorships to different small businesses to join my media platform. Like right now, as soon as this live stream's over, I'm going to go like to my list of startups. I'm going to start like cold emailing them, and basically find ones first that are, I understand, like a business audience, because basically I have an audience of like business, like people that are like passionate about business, like on my different podcasts. So basically like I could reach out to them, and like my blog, basically reach out to them, like like show them like the audience that I have, and basically let them like sponsor CWT Media and even buy ad space on Store for Business, which is my business store. And by doing this is like one, I make a bunch of small business connections already. I see how my audience like responds to different products, and it'll be much easier to see what like kind of business I should actually like invest in, with startups. So right now, like I do a ton of investing with actual like stocks, like on the actual like stock market, and it's mostly S&P 500 companies. But really, it's like I do a lot of investing there. But when you invest into a startup, it's really like a whole new thing. First off, it's a ton more risk, which is both a good thing and a bad. It's a good thing because it's a lot more fun, but it's like it's a ton more risk, and also it's a lot harder to actually get your money back. Like right now, if I invest into like Apple, whatever, it's like one, like I can see in real time how my money is going up in value, and it doesn't really matter if I make it back in like dividends, because like I'm basically having just like my initial investment go up in value and like take it out. But when you invest into a startup, it's not really like that, where you can just where you, like one, you don't really see your value really like go up in new time. It really depends on like like angel investing and like venture capitalist rounds, where like once the rounds go, you can like see like how much your worth is like increasing, and like by how like what valuation they raise their funds at. But the only ways to really get your money back if you invest in a startup is one, if the company goes public, obviously you can get your money back then. Two, if the company gets acquired, obviously, if you own 25% of the company, get 25% of what it's acquired for. And three, if you can get your money back in dividends, which means like if you pay like 100,000 for 25%, and over time, like they, make enough money, like pay you back like through the dividends. That's really like the only ways you actually get the money back from, doing a startup deal. But the great part about it is that you can make such a high return on your investment. Like, if you put like $100,000 into a startup, like you can like oftentimes, like 20x it, like 10x it. but also most of the time, something like 90% of startups actually fail. So you're basically taking a huge risk, but if it pays off in huge percentages, but it most likely will not. So like you have to like keep that in mind. And also like I listen to a lot of different like podcasts, like people that do like venture capitalism or like, angel investing. And they give the advice that basically you need to really invest into as many startups as you like can, and like, put like 20,000 like 20 different startups, and basically be prepared to not get most of that money back, or have most of those investments like completely go to zero and you lose all that. But, with like two or three out of the 20 invested in that do take off, you'll make enough money from that to one, like cover like all the like bad investments you made, and make a pretty sizable profit. And that's really like that's something like that I it is reality, but also something I don't think has to be reality, because with my basically like business development company, CWT Business Development, and my media company, CWT Media, I basically, as those start to grow, like I'll have an audience to market to, like a pretty large audience to market to, and I also have a marketing company that can like grow it through that. So by having that and having that exposure and play smart investments, I think I'll be able to have a lot, or like a much bigger percentage of my investments actually pay off. And the reason for that is, like a lot of like venture capitalists, they put money in there and like, yeah, they like assisted a little bit, but they really just put their money in there and then hope to get it back. And in fact, like one of like business person I really like, his name's Sam Parr, he was talking about it. Really what they'll do, and this is according to him, of course, but really what they'll do is they'll give you money, they'll take a percentage of your company, and then you don't really hear from them at all until like, it's time to get more money. And the thing is, though, they're not actually like assisting you on the way through. And that's something different with like the show Shark Tank, for instance. They actually do a lot of work, assisting their entrepreneurs and helping them really go like further. Like they help them get deals, they help the company grow. And really, I think that system works a lot better. Like if you can actually, help your like if you can actually like help like the startups you're investing in, get into different stores, like help them like market, like basically like a system, I think it's much more likely you're going to get your money back, which obviously is something not everyone's into. But I really do think that would be smart. Also, like if you make, like me, for instance, right? I'm like with CWT Media, I'm developing a business themed audience. If I can find, you know, if I can find companies that are targeting that audience, like if that audience is their target market, it just makes sense that actually like giving it to them will really like do a lot of exposure to the company. And obviously, like I'm not there right now, but I do think it would be interesting to like, kind of like help them. I actually don't necessarily. I would much rather be an investor in a company that goes public than an investor in a company that goes acquired. Although, obviously you have a much better chance of actually having the company get acquired. That is just obvious. But it would be much better to be a part of like companies that are going public, because once you have once you goes public and your shares like, can transition to kind of like a more public market, it's a lot easier to increase that in value. And I think that would just be, so much fun to do. Like there's a company, I believe they're called MindMed, that like Kevin O'Leary is like we invested in a long time ago, and they're about to go public, and his shares are going to most likely skyrocket in value because of the fact that it's easily tradable. And by having that, like there's so much money to be made from that system. And I really do think, as much as I love, like, obviously, like investing is like a huge passion of mine, but I really think startup investing is the greatest, or like the most fun thing anyone can do with their money, because like, that fact of actually like taking a small business and like growing it into a bigger one. But I also think that it's probably, obviously, like it's very risky, but if done right, it's like the most profitable thing you can do. And I think actually like doing that, like taking that challenge is going to be really fun. But first, I have to grow my podcasting, like to cover my expenses. I have to go store for business, and you make those deals with like sponsorships to grow that. I have to basically, turn CWT Media into a very profitable company. Keep, like with CWT Business Development, with Divine Era, like making money, like the CWT store, like all the clients on there making money. And if I can have both of these like making, a profit like over and over like time, I'm really hoping that in the next like 3 to 4 years, I can make my first startup investment. And I think that's going to be really fun to see, and also like see how I can transition CWT Media's audience to them, because I found out, and this something that's like very interesting. Like obviously on like my podcast, that's by far my biggest platform, and I have a huge, not huge, but I have a relative, like I have a pretty nice size like audience on there, and like it's hard to get that audience to also go like check out my social medias or like my podcast, even though they're targeting the same audience. It's hard to like get that transition going, which is something that's like really interesting. But it's interesting that like they're fans like of the blog, but they don't transition to like the podcast, or like not all of them do. So actually like figuring out like how to transition that into like a startup's growth is going to be a very interesting challenge, and one that I'm extremely excited to actually do. I think that's really all I have to say for this live, unless there's like any questions or anything in the live chat. Also, like I really like the live format, but I'm also taking all the audio from these and uploading into like my own podcast, CWT Live, available on all platforms. But if you ever missed like a live stream or like just regular listen to it audio, obviously you can go check that out. And I think that's going to be really interesting. And that's really all I have to say for this episode. Thank you so much for actually watching. It means a lot to me. And bye.